Hey Resonator family, good evening. My name is Jerry Smith. I'm a longtime Resonator fan, Michael Stanley fan. I know it's been 6 long months without our brother, our family member, Michael Stanley, and it's been tough on each and every one of us. Besides the pandemic and then him getting sick and then we losing him 6 months ago. So it's been a tough road. So one of the things I did is I asked a couple of the band members if I can do some interviews with them. And my first interview is going to be with Eroc, Eric Sazinski, the bass player. And the interview turned out great. In the interview, you're going to see a lot of good laughs, some sad moments, but very interesting moments. I actually put him on the spot and asked him if we could do maybe a tribute or a reunion. So it's been tough on all these guys. You know, I've talked to a couple of them over the whole pandemic, but I understand it, and you as Resonators understand that. So I hope you enjoy this video, this interview that I did just as much as I did. I really honestly enjoyed it. And we got to see a side of Eric that you really don't get to see. So please take the time, watch the couple videos that we put out here over the next couple days, and let us know what you think. Until then, until we see you on stage again, we'll see you next time. Good afternoon, Eric. How are you doing today?
Good.
We'd like to thank you for allowing us to come into your home and talk about you, yourself, your tribute bands, but mostly the Resonators, Michael Stanley Resonators.
Right.
So we really appreciate you allowing us to come into your home. And I know how busy you are with all these tribute bands and gigs you do. When do you have time to sleep?
Huh?
Do you even sleep
in the morning? That's why, you know.
Your normal time is what to go to sleep? 5, 6 o'clock in the morning?
Or yeah, sometimes earlier, sometimes later.
And then your phone starts ringing probably at 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock?
No, I turn the ringers off. So.
Do you really?
I turn my phone off, yeah.
So, Eric Sazinski, bass player for the Resonators. First thing I want to start off with, your last name is Sazinski.
Right.
All right.
Good Irish name, yeah.
Yeah. So, I don't see a pink flamingo in your front yard. What am I missing here with that last name?
We left that in Parma when we moved out of Parma in 1970. But
I drove up and down the road looking for your home. I was like, I told Laura, I was like, there's got to be a pink flamingo in his front yard with that last name. So
you don't see that too often in Cleveland.
No, you really don't. But I really thought you would bring it with you. But we'll get you one. How's that? We'll put it up there. One night you'll wake up the next morning and there'll be a pink flamingo in your front yard. So. Okay. So how, up to this point, how have you been doing? Before I get into all the questions, how's things been?
Oh, it's been a busy summer, playing a lot with the duo, you know, my acoustic duo, and, you know, mostly. So
yeah.
It's been busy, but that's starting to wind down. You know, the outdoor private parties and the outdoor patio gigs are starting to wind down. So,
you know, with the pandemic and everything that went on over the past year and a half, who wants to take a break at this point? We all been locked up in our houses and doing what we've been doing. What did you do during the pandemic to keep yourself from going crazy?
Drink.
And did you?
It was, just me and my roommate, you know, hung out a lot and, you know, just did what everybody else did. You know, I'm not the kind of guy to get motivated and like clean things or, you know, get into too many projects or such. But
tell us one thing that you learned from the pandemic, or something that you did in the pandemic that you wouldn't have done if the pandemic would never happen. So an example would be, did you go out jogging? I see that you guys do a lot of hiking and all that, you and your friends, but is that something that you picked up from the pandemic?
Yeah, I mean, that was one thing. Yeah, enjoying the outdoor space. Just getting to realize, you know, the importance of friends and family.
Well, the pandemic really brought that to light, didn't it?
And you know, and how music is, you know, the communal celebration of music, which is what got curtailed for much of that. You know, how important that is, and you know how important it is. You know, obviously not just for my livelihood, but for my psyche, for my soul, of being able to play for people. You know.
One of the things that I noticed that you do is you go for hikes quite a bit.
I just try to get out once a week.
What is
That's not like all the time. I'm not, I'm not climbing mountains. I just like to.
What is the most unique place that you found hiking so far? What is like the most coolest place of all the places you've been to?
Oh geez, Hocking Hills was really cool. I hadn't been down there. Last fall was the
Yeah,
first time
yeah.
I was down there. So that's probably would have to be one of the coolest things. And all the waterfalls that are around Northeast Ohio
Following you on
know,
Facebook, I did notice, and we've never paid attention to it. You did visit a lot
yeah.
of places like that. It had to kind of like be a little surreal.
Oh yeah,
That's in your
Illyrian
backyard.
Amherst down to the Brandywine Falls to the whole Bedford, Cuyahoga Valley. I mean, Cuyahoga Valley is just a plethora of places to do see things like that and rock formations and just a beautiful area. We're really blessed to have the Metro Parks systems that are in the surrounding Cuyahoga and the surrounding counties.
I seen one of your photos of downtown by Shooters. You took a picture of the bridge that's been there for many, many years. And it's one of the most breathtaking photos I've seen of that bridge. I mean, you really took a nice picture. You guys did pretty good with that. But is that one of your favorite places, is downtown to go hiking in those areas to look at the bridges and stuff? Or
this is, really some of the first times I've explored a lot of that. It's just my iPhone. But I like, being able to see things like that and compose, photos based on that. I'm learning about all these places myself too.
It is absolutely crazy how so many people have learned different things through the pandemic, but we made it through it. Don't know how we did it because we would never think we'd be in a situation like that. So let's talk about you. Eric, as a kid, how did you even come about even thinking about playing?
Well, first of all, call me Eroc.
Okay, I'll call you Eroc. I'll call you Eroc.
Family, old friends call me Eric, but my friends,
I appreciate that. I really appreciate you calling me a friend because you called me
much more casual. You're rather than that's
absolutely. So, as a kid, Eroc, you're sitting at home. You're a young kid. You're sitting at home with your family and stuff. What makes you decide to even pick up an instrument, any kind of instrument?
It was the Beatles and the Monkees, really. That was my earliest musical influence, and the Wixie 1260 AM radio, the pop music that was coming out of there. I had an older brother and an older sister, 3 years and 6 years older, and my mom liked, playing records. She liked the early Beatles and Glenn Campbell and, like I say, the AM radio. So, we liked playing music in the house, and so that's, of course, having an older brother, older sister, they kind of lead you in terms of what they like, and you listen to that, and then you go from there. So,
is there one song particular or one band particular that made you go, I think I want to learn this. I want to get an instrument and learn this. Is there someone particular that sticks out to you?
Paul McCartney.
Oh, wow. That's great.
And the Beatles,
So at what point did you transition and ask your parents, hey, I really would like a bass
they
guitar?
kind of, I've got early pictures of us with play, guitars and, my mom's father had been a trumpet player, a piano player. And so they started all three of us kids on piano lessons when we were young, when we were 7, or so, around that age. So, they helped kind of, give us that basis of music. And then it went from there. Then it's like, okay, well, there was a guitar, that we had. I got a small student guitar and started playing that. My brother did too. So, it just kind of all grew from there. So it wasn't really a point like, I'm going to do this. It just kind of evolved.
Yeah.
My sister was the first one in the family to get an electric guitar. And then, so of course, my brother was getting an electric guitar. And then it was like, well, okay, there's all these guitar players, but if I played bass, I'd be more in demand,
right.
And of course I like Paul McCartney, from the Beatles. So that's how that evolved into me playing bass.
So moving on from the bass, from the time of learning the bass, which was pretty difficult, I'm assuming, as a young kid, or did it come natural?
No, well, again, I had the basic background of playing piano, and then in 4th grade I started playing trumpet, cornet in school band. So I had this music, already going on, and
so you were destined to be where you're at today with.
I think so. I used to pretend to play in front of the mirror, with that I was on stage, playing guitar and singing, and so. and I also was into theater as a kid. Got involved in the youth theater at Greenbrier
Oh, wow.
Theater in Parma Heights, which is now the Cassidy Theater. And so, I always had that element of show business and, wanting to perform for people, I think.
So as a kid, you knew what you wanted, the direction you wanted to go.
I think so. I mean, I knew, yeah.
That's awesome.
That's at least how I felt, and of course you really don't know as a kid what you want to be when you grow up. But I mean, I guess I wanted to be a musician, be a rock star,
Bryan Adams says in the summer of '69, we all wanted to be in a band, but it never happened.
Yeah.
Tell me about your first experience with your band. Putting a band together, how old were you? Okay. How did it come about?
I would jam with my best friend Joe, who was a drummer, and just like in his bedroom or in the basement, And so the first actual gig I ever did, if you call it performance, was at my elementary school, Incarnate Word Academy. The 7th graders put on a show at the end of the year for the 8th graders who are graduating. And it's kind of like a talent show.
Yeah.
So with me and with Joe, my friend Joe on drums, and Matt Soboleski on guitar, and a couple other kids, we did a song. We ended up with doing a BTO, Taking Care of Business.
Oh, wow.
Because it's 3 chords, I still have the cassette of that too, which
Do you
is
really?
funny.
We should have to listen to that one day.
Yeah, I'll dig it out. It's buried in a box, but I do have it, I know. So that was the first time I was ever like on stage playing. But then I also was playing bass in the school band at that point too.
How much of your school band? A lot of kids today are afraid to go into band. I mean, there's kids get picked on and things like that being a band, but band is the cool place to be.
Mm-hmm.
As a kid, how much did your high school band actually help you?
That was my main activity at school.
That's awesome.
I wasn't heavily into athletics or whatever. I mean, I did that earlier at school, but music was to hang out in the band room. That's where instead of being in the study hall in the CAF, you can go into the band room and sit and play. I'd sit and play piano, jam on the piano.
That's awesome.
In the piano room, or hang out
so
that way.
So going through that transition with band and school and all that, at what point did you realize that you wanted to put an actual band together to go have fun?
It was soon after that. The thing in the 7th grade and 8th grade, pretty much. I got together with one of the kids that I had played on stage with in his band called Black Widow, which he already had going, and did a couple gigs with them and with him, and then from there, once I got into St. Edward High School in Lakewood, found a couple other kids to play and jam with, and then put together something with again other kids that I knew that were musicians and such. So
let's go from high school to meeting Jim. How did that come about? Meeting Jim.
That was at St. Ed's in 9th grade. In fact, the first time I played with him was when I started. It would have been fall of '79. I was a freshman at St. Ed's, and they would do school masses, And since he was a guitar player and I was a bass player, so I ended up playing, a school mass with him.
Wow.
And just knew him kind of, and then did another gig with him. I think in 10th grade, he was in a wedding band that included the biology teacher of St. Ed's, who was a musician.
That's actually pretty cool.
And so I did like another gig with him back then.
Were you in biology at all? Were you guys in biology at all?
In the class? No, we never had any classes together.
No?
No. But
how about with the teacher? Any biology classes with the teacher? Did they help you with grades or anything?
No.
You guys were all in a band?
Yeah, no.
No?
I just did the one gig with them actually, but that's how I met Jim, but didn't really know him real, crazily.
How many years have you guys been playing?
You're blocking that camera if you're in front of it with that.
How many years have you and Jim been together?
I ended up reconnecting with Jim in 1986 when with his band Harvest, when their bass player was leaving the band, and so I tried out and did a handful of gigs, but I was also still playing with the band that I had formed in high school with ROC.
Okay.
And I was going to John Carroll at the time, so I mean I was busy with finishing up my last year at John Carroll and still playing gigs with ROC. We were playing at the Shadows and Diversion, some of the clubs that were on the west side there in Parma. And so he figured that I'm too busy to commit to that band, so they decided to try somebody else out for a bit. And when that bass player didn't work after a couple months, 3 months, he
Yeah.
called me again, and so that's
So
when I
it turned
officially
into this.
joined. Then in beginning of '87,
That's awesome.
and
So
that was the start of my
You-
musical partnership with Jim Teig.
you guys been playing probably longer than anybody in the Cleveland area, and like nobody, you guys lasted more than most marriages in Cleveland or most bands.
Well, like
in Cleveland.
Spina and Sullivan, those guys have been playing together for. I mean, there's a handful, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's been 34 years. 35 years is
Wow.
yeah, it is a.
So you leave high school, you go to John Carroll.
Mhm.
When you went to John Carroll, did you have a focus on what you wanted to do?
I was a communications major. When I realized that, because I had first thought about being a theater major, and I realized that there's not much work. You gotta move to New York and starve, or whatever. And so I decided to get into communications. John Carroll had a decent communications department at that time. So, and wasn't sure radio, TV, or what.
Yeah.
But I got involved with the radio station right away there in 1983. So, so at the end of like my last year at John Carroll, was able to. There was somebody from WERE, the news director, was teaching a radio course. So that's I took that, and they said, hey, there's an part-time opening at WERE. So I applied for that and got that, and was able to parlay that into a full-time job when I graduated from John Carroll. So
Well, let's take a little break, Eric, and we'll continue the questions here in just one moment. And we're back from our little break. Eric, moving from John Carroll into NCX, how did that even come about?
well, I told you I got at WERE, and WNCX was a sister station. So I was working for WE. It's all together.
And it's all in the same building, right?
Yeah.
A lot of people don't realize that. Everybody thinks it's.
Well, I think people know now how stations are grouped together,
Yeah.
but they were grouped, back then. And
So you get into NCX, and what do you do? What's your job at NCX?
Well, I started off first at WERE as the associate producer, the call screener for Merle Paulus and Joel Rose for their talk shows.
Wow.
So I worked in talk radio for 2-3 years, and this is when talk radio was just starting to explode.
Yeah.
And Gary D and and I was in there, so I got to learn from Merle Paulus and Joel Rose. Merle was one of the first talk radio DJs in the 50s, or personalities, not DJs, and Joel, of course, worked, with the Morning Exchange. He was a TV personality. So, but what I went into from there, the next step was in the traffic department. Now, traffic and radio and TV isn't the guy in the helicopter. It's the creating the commercial logs. You work with the salespeople who buy who deal with advertisers who buy times, and so you have to have a commercial log that says what commercials they play at what time when they go on breaks, and then it gets billed based on when it ran. So it's a computer, it's a multitasking kind of a job, and detail oriented.
Yeah.
And so, so I got into that, and then moved from WERE to WNCX, and also then WENZ The End, so 107.9 The End, came into our group of stations, and I worked there. So, but all at the same time, I was still doing bands, and like at some point after, I think 4 or 5 years with in the radio station, I was doing enough band gigs with Jim as Harvest and then Tie-Dye Harvest that I was able to quit my day job and just did the bands full time.
Wow.
Then I would come back to the station and maybe work part-time while doing the bands. Then, what was it, like 93 when Jim and we had our first divorce, you could say. That's what, I wanted to keep on growing with the bands, and he just had his daughter and wanted to still stay. And we had been in 6 years, we did like 1,000 gigs, and we were rooming together. It was, so we needed to take a break from each other, basically. And we're still, I was just in my late 20s, late 20s. And so that's like when I started working then again at the station full time. Yeah. And meeting Michael, and getting to know Michael, in the work environment.
About the radio station.
Yeah.
Of all the DJs and everybody that comes through there, is it like WKRP at all? Is there anything like, is there any realization of WKRP?
It used to be like that. I haven't been in radio since 2007, and I quit full time in 2001, but especially in the 90s, the late 80s and the 90s. It was a lot of fun. Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
And there's always personalities like that, you know.
Yeah.
Just like each of those is a character. I've worked with people that are, you know, like Herb Tarlick. There's
Yeah,
people,
yeah.
you know, well, you know, like you know the Jennifer, you know, the receptionist, and it's
Did you
it
have
is funny.
You don't have to
That's-
say anybody's name, but did you have a Johnny Fever that worked in the in the radio business?
kind of, yeah.
I kind of figured. So
But yeah, so it was. So I juggled radio and working in bands, you know,
Yeah.
on either there full time or doing the bands full time, and
so let's kind of go into the meeting of Michael Stanley, and we're going to take this step by step.
mhm.
How did you meet Michael Stanley? Obviously, you heard of the Michael Stanley band.
Oh yeah, I
As
played
a kid.
MSB in ninth grade with the first band with ROC Rock when we played at Albion Junior High School for.
What song would that have been that you
We
played?
played Strike Up the Band and He Can't Love You.
Wow, that's awesome.
And yeah, I've got those on cassette somewhere too.
We would love to
I
hear
should
those,
put that out
too.
and say this was my MSB tribute band back in.
Yeah.
I was doing this in 1980, 19.
So you
yeah,
could actually call yourself the first
81.
Michael Stanley tribute band. So
We covered them that, but yeah, it was 1981. So, but the first time I met Michael, and I told him this story because it's actually kind of funny. You know, I think he was just starting to at NCX. I think he had done like a weekly show or something on MMS, and then they were going to have him start doing it at NCX. And they said, "Oh yeah, Michael's like coming in today, and he's going to be he's downstairs, you know, or whatever." Now, just being a entertainer, you know, I can do a fair amount of mimicry and you know impersonations, you know,
Yeah.
of people, and I learned that I could sing like Michael, you know, I could do you know, and so. And we used to have fun with that a little bit. So when he was in the station, somebody said, "Oh," you know, and I thought, you know, and so what I did is I went down there and I said hi to him, you know, and said, "Oh yeah," I said, "Hey, did you know a lot of people, you know, say that I can sing like you, you know, and I can," and so I sang "Stairway to Heaven" like the first line of "Stairway
did
to
you
Heaven,"
really?
singing it like Michael would, you know. There's a lady who's sure, well, the glitters is gold, and she's buying a stairway to heaven on a cold Ohio night, you know, kind of
Actually,
kind
fantastic.
kind of like that. And I remember he just, you know, I don't know, that was ballsy that I figured to do this, but I think he just kind of looked at me like, okay,
Who'd let this kid in the radio
you know,
station?
and he didn't remember it when I told him about it years later, but he laughed about it and got a kick out of it.
That's
But,
actually awesome.
But yeah, and the fact that showed that he's such a, you know, that he had such a good, you know, sense of humor that
Yeah.
and patience to deal with some kid that's going to come down there and,
Isn't that awesome?
and parody
that he
him.
accepted
But
that right off the bat,
yeah,
you know.
yeah, and then so yeah, then he started working on NCX. Then we moved from that was when we were still over on Chester across from the Ground bus station.
Yeah.
Then we moved over to the Haley building, and then it was just a matter of, you know, when I was working, I'd have to go up into the on-air studio, you know, every day to take logs up, or go and check on a commercial or something. So, you know, I got to know him that way from just talking about music. You know, I'd just come out and hang with him in the studio. You know, I have a pretzel that he always had a bag of pretzels, and
What's one of the things that stuck out to you him when he was in the studio on the air? You know, some people we look at and we get starstruck and things like that.
Oh, yeah.
Is there something about Michael in the studio that stuck out?
Well,
about
you know, it would be like, you know, and we would joke about this, you know, he'd have to play something like Paranoid, you know, by Sabbath, and it would like segue into Margaritaville, you know, like da 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 da. Da, 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 you know, and after that he would just go like, ah, you know, that was always one of our jokes, you know, about the segues like that. So I mean, something like that, you know,
Yeah,
I got to
that's
know
pretty
his
cool.
sense of humor and just talking about music, and he would say, "Oh yeah, did you hear this?" Or, you know, and he would tell me about some bands that he likes, and, you know, ask me about other things playing. You know, he knew then that I was playing all the time too.
Yeah.
He came out and saw Wish You Were, well, was that already by the time? No, that would have been after I was already with him. So, because
How did that?
but he had never really seen me play.
How did that even come about? So you're a young musician. You're working at the radio station. He's Michael Stanley selling out blossom, traveling all around the world, doing what he's doing.
He had. Yeah, he was. At this point now, he was back just doing TV and radio.
So how did it come about to even get you two together?
Yeah.
How did that even come about?
Well, he was doing the Ghost Poets CD, and which was him, reuniting with Jonah and with Bob and Jennifer. And I remember he gave me a copy of it, and they had already announced a show, at Peabody's Down Under in August. This is August '93, and he gave me the CD. He said, "I'll take a listen to this and tell me what you think." And so when I listened at home, it's like, oh yeah, this is cool. And then he said, well, do you think this is something you could do? I mean, do you mean like play? And he was like, yeah, like we don't, it's time that I've got to put together the live band for this. I mean, and this is literally like a few weeks away from the show.
Yeah.
And he didn't have a band fully formed yet. I mean, he had the basic core of, Bob and Tommy. And he said, for drums, I mean, I've got to have Tommy Dobeck. I can't imagine turning around and looking and seeing anybody but Tommy on drums.
Wow.
And that's what he had said ever since.
Wow.
That was his loyalty and his feelings towards Tommy on drums. But at the time with the bass player, Mike Gismondi was out of the picture. He was a postman in the postal service in Youngstown, and he had Jonah, and I think Scott Allen had played some things on the bass, but he wanted like a rock bass player, and again, he knew of my reputation and the bands, but he hadn't really seen me. So he said, do you think this is something, you could handle to play? And I'm like, sure.
Wow.
And so, okay, well, we're going to start working on it. And next week we're going to start rehearsals, and we're going to rehearse almost every day up into the show. And
so you had 7 days, if that, 7 days to learn the music?
I think it was about that. Yeah. And then we rehearsed 7 days. So we rehearsed 6 days, I think, out of 7 leading up to the show.
Wow. So obviously it went pretty smooth. Everything. Do you feel it went?
It was. Yeah. I mean, it was a learning experience, and I was intimidated. A 27-year-old.
Yeah.
Kid coming in with these, with Michael and Tommy and Jonah and and Bob, and that was also Rodney was there and Jennifer. And so it was kind of like, yeah, but I mean, I learned the tunes. I knew that I could play it.
Right.
And so it was just a matter of learning how they worked. And, we did some other cover songs and such. And so, yeah, it was just a matter of, following along and hoping that I'm doing right. And,
so at any point on stage of the night of your guys', where'd you say it was, Peabody's?
Yeah, Peabody's Down Under.
Was there a surreal moment for you at all? Like looking around at the guys you're on stage with?
The surreal thing was going through it, and I'm nailing every song. And in the meantime, they're all making mistakes.
Wow.
And kind of laughing about it. But, they're, messing up and flubbing lyrics or flubbing parts. And Dobeck's looking at me for all the endings and everything, and I'm, so I'm kind of helping with that. And I just played a flawless show, and it was like, wow, I guess I could do this, I can hang with these guys. And so that was, to me, that was quite an eye-opening experience.
You get off stage, you guys are backstage. Every time a band gets done, they go backstage or they clean their stuff up.
Oh.
Anybody say anything to you in the band? Anybody at all?
I don't remember specifically. It was just all, it was all good. Because then we had other gigs booked, and we just then did more gigs. And one thing, like I told Michael, you never really officially said that I was in the band. It was always
so you were never officially invited into the Ghost Poets.
I mean, they never said, okay, you're now a band member. It was just done another gigs, and that turned into playing for 2 or 3 years, and then it became Michael and Friends, and it just 28 years later, here we are.
With going from the Ghost Poets into the Resonators, did you have an understanding how powerful Michael Stanley was and Jonah and all those guys?
Well, I mean, again, it kind of evolved. It was because Jonah was around, and then Jonah decided to go out to California, and mine his talents out there with various opportunities. And Michael at the time was already, putting together, already had stuff for Coming Up for Air.
Yeah.
And had me play on it. And so then it just became, He just called it Michael Stanley and Friends when he was, doing the shows.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and the band was pretty much, the core of the band from that point, was the same. It only became the Resonators when it was around 2000 when he decided that he wanted to have a moniker for, for his backup band, just like, everybody,
Yeah.
Tommy James and the Shondells,
Right,
or,
right, right.
just anything, like that, I think is. But I mean, so as much as it was titled that, the band was pretty much solidified. The core of the band was, since when I joined in '93.
Yeah. Any particular, in the beginning as a Resonator, any particular show in the beginning that sticks out to you that you were like, wow, this is cool. I'm sitting here on stage with the Resonators.
You mean once it became the Resonators, or
Yes.
before that? Because we had all kinds,
Leading into the Resonators, when you
7 years before. I mean, we played at Clemson Stadium, open for the Eagles. That was probably the biggest wow moment.
So
after
you
that,
standing backstage going, oh my God, I'm getting ready to open up for the Eagles here.
Yeah, playing on the stage of in a stadium setting,
How long does it take for you to I know
had
you're
a big
nervous.
smile on my face
Sure.
the whole time.
So was the Eagles one of your highlight moments of you guys opening up for a band? Was that one of your...
That and would also be then at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, the tribute to Michael Stanley in the year in 2000. Was it 2000? With Joe Walsh, and we got to play with Joe Walsh at the Rock on stage at the Rock Hall. So
that's
that was
awesome.
That's my other wow moment that if I had to offhand think of.
How was he? How was Joe Walsh? Everybody said he's a fun, crazy guy to talk to, and that is that.
He's
and
mellow.
He's business.
He was mellow, but friendly, and and we did what we had to do, and that was really cool.
So you get through all that, and now how does the Resonators come about? How does that for you? Does he just call you and say, okay, let's start working on?
Well, it was just a cycle of playing, and all the time he's working on putting together his new music, and and then going in the studio while we're doing it. So I mean, it's just like I say, it was just a constant rolling machine that evolved with the names.
So let's stop for a second and talk about Michael and his music a little bit. Mm-hmm. People don't really, true Resonator fans or musicians that are in a band understand how lyrical Michael and Bob were with writing, and even Jonah back in the day. Mm-hmm. Is there a particular song that you hear Michael do and there's like a word or something that sticks out and you go, where did he even come up with this word in this song? Or is there a song that sticks out to you?
That's just I saw you post that. Not a word, but I mean the first thing I would think of, it was the phrase in winter, leather jacket lunatic. I love that line. Like a leather jacket lunatic howling at the moon or whatever. It's just, to me, that's such a cool imagery and something I could identify with. And for him to, identify with that also in his writing, to me, that would be to me one of the things that really stuck out.
His writing is just phenomenal, and I mean, true people that listen to music all in general. Mm-hmm. If you would stop and listen to his lyric and how he writes, him and Bob, it's just out of this world. Honestly, mm-hmm. He's, to me and to you, he is the best of the best. You put him in that category with him. Mm-hmm. Okay, how was he in the studio? When you guys would go in the studio, how was he in the studio? Was he a relaxed kind of guy or very...
Oh, he was relaxed. I mean, he had his method of doing everything, because it was all grassroots and from him, in his studio, from his chair, and so, I mean, he played bass on a lot of the stuff, on almost, I would say most of his, his solo material. He would call me in for, a certain groove, or if he wanted, to rock something out a certain way, or for a certain touch. But, because he started out playing bass, with Silk, and also with his other bands, and because he created everything organically from the ground up in his studio, that's why, the bass is one of the foundations, of a song. So, but when I would go in, I mean, so it was a little intimidating for me. I'm more of a live player. Yeah. I've done my share of studio work, but I've always, with most of the studio work that I did, preferred it to be, more of a live, with the drums and stuff. So it was kind of different, and it took a little bit to get used to. But after I learned what it was that he liked to hear and how he approached it, so it was just a matter of, adapting to that and learning, and that's what it was, So, I mean, we would just get together. I would already have the song, know what the song is. He would give me a tape. Sometimes it would have a bass part on it, other times it wouldn't. And I'd have to come up with something with the groove. And sometimes we'd try something. He'd say, well, no, how about trying it this way, Or else he'd say, yeah, I really like that, And like for the song In for a Dollar, I think he just had like a straight part, and I decided, I think this would really rock out if it had like a ding ding dang, but like a certain kind of rhythm.
Yeah.
And he dug that, and that's like one of the songs I'm proud of, because
really
I actually
cool.
got to really put myself into it, as opposed to playing more for. I mean, I always have to play for the song. That's
right.
a mark of a good musician and bass player especially. You got to service the song. But that was one thing I was proud of, that I was able to add a little bit more of my own.
Absolutely.
Another thing was what started off as originally called Colonoscopy Blues, that became what's the name of it? Dave, wait, help me out here. Not too little, too late. Or that might be it. Something like, I'm zoning. But that I had a good, cool. Was able to get a good blues kind of feel to it, and I was real happy with that too.
So coming out of the studio and starting to play with the band and doing some of the songs that you heard growing up as a kid and made Michael Stanley popular the way he became, he's really one of our heroes in music in Cleveland. If you're in the Cleveland music scene, it's Michael Stanley,
Oh yeah, and playing his stuff in ninth grade, I never would have imagined that I would have been on, on stage and playing with him for 28 years.
What's your number one favorite Michael Stanley song? I know you can't be politically correct and say they're all my favorite. You have to have one.
People ask me that, like with Pink Floyd and Wish You Were Here, or any of my songs that I've written. Let's Get the Show on the Road usually stands out for me. That was one of the songs that I would always enjoy like playing the most. But it changes over the years. Midwest Midnight. Calcutta Auction. When we got to play that and learn that. And we nailed it, and that was cool. But and of course Midwest Rosewood Bitters, since I've been playing it, with Jim over the years now, and Falling in Love Again. So I mean, right now to play it, since as I'm just playing Michael Stanley songs with Jim, Falling in Love Again is my favorite song to play right now and sing.
What Michael Stanley song to you, or Resonator song, or Ghost Poet, whatever, has the most meaning to you? Has the most, makes you think about you and Michael, the band, and everybody playing out? What one song is for you?
Whew.
I like that.
The Ground was so important, because that was a major turning point, I think, in his post-MSB solo career, where a lot of people, of course it was a good time for me, because we had the Michael Stanley Message Forum, which was before Facebook,
right
and a group of people that I've connected with, of fans of his, that have become close friends. So that was like a magical time. So songs like that, kind of,
Is there a song you wish you could have put into the lineup? Is there one song that you wish you could say, hey, Michael, let's do this song tonight?
Of somebody of
the Resonators,
his?
Or of the MSB.
Well, I always wanted to do Baby If You Want to Dance, and I kept bugging him about that. And then when Danny chimed in, that's when he finally decided to do it. Yeah. I mean, there's all kinds of tunes I would have loved to have played with him, that I may have played with him once or not at all. Like I heard Lady's Choice earlier today or yesterday, and it's like, that's a great song, and that would have been cool. Or Promises, so there were certain tunes, that I liked from MSB that we didn't play, or we may have only played a handful. Of course, then being able to do like Calcutta Auction and Moving Right Along, those were also highlights that I would have said, I wanted to do.
Musicians don't like to admit that there's something difficult to do or anything, because they just don't want to do it. That's just musicians. Is there one song that you would play and go, okay, don't mess this up, Eroc? Or were you perfect at all, or you did good at all of them?
You mean like that I had pressure on for
Yeah.
playing? I just tried to do everything, you know. I just attacked everything with trying to play it, uh, you know, as good as I could or perfectly. The slower, more sultry tunes, something like "To Love Somebody," something that's, you know, very precise. You know, those kind of songs, you know, were important to me
Yeah.
too, to make sure that I got right.
You know,
Yeah.
let's talk a little bit about your Resonator family, your Ghost Poet family, Resonator. Let's talk a little bit about them. You know, and I'll go through, and if I forget somebody, please remind me, but I think I should have this.
Don't forget Danny.
I definitely will not forget Danny, who's to me one of the most important part of the band. So, you know, you've been around these guys for years, and you guys have become a family. You know, you guys have become close, and nothing's ever going to replace what's happened with Michael, and the pandemic didn't help. And so let's talk a little bit. So I'm gonna say a band member's name. I want you to say the first thing that comes to your mind. Even if you got to pause for a second, you can go ahead and pause, okay? So are you ready for this?
No, but okay.
All right, Eric, right before break, I asked you a real important question, but I mean, to most people in the world, this is a very serious question. Is Die Hard a Christmas movie?
Yes.
See, no one gets that. There's not, I mean, like the world's split down the middle, 50-50, of Die Hard being a Christmas movie. I think it's a Christmas. They sing a couple songs in there, so it's got to be.
Sure.
So I want to do some word association with you, have a little bit of fun before we get back getting serious again. So you ready? This is gonna be the band members. I'm gonna throw a word out, one of the band members out to you.
Okay.
Tell me the first thing that comes to your mind, and tell me a little bit about them. But I want to know what the first thing that comes to your mind when I say this band member's name.
Oh my.
Okay, so you ready?
I'll pretend that they're all watching.
Okay.
At some point, they're gonna see it.
Okay, so here we go. Tell me about Rodney.
Rodney. Jokester with a million stories.
Mark Lee.
Soulful and intense.
Very intense. Very intense. Paul Wolf. Paul Wolf.
Christensen?
Yes.
Happy. He's just a happy guy that, you know, always can light up a room. You know, just with he's very amicable and
He's
friendly.
always,
He's just
definitely always
the nice guy. You know. I don't know. It's you know, these people are. That's
I know
it's like
this,
you know.
but this is the best
How do you
part of it.
describe like your brother or sister in a couple terms?
You know,
it's,
and the other
they're
people,
obviously so much deeper, but
and the
yeah.
other band members that do these
Yeah.
interviews, now they already get a heads up on it.
Right.
So now you're getting put in
Yeah.
the corner. So
Okay.
Danny Powers.
Amazing, the most incredible guitar player I've had the honor of playing with. You know, he can play anything.
You know, and he like studies the guitar. Like he, you know, they say people live with their guitar and eat and drink and do everything with their guitar. That's Danny Powers.
Steve Howe, Steve Vai, and anyone in between.
Yeah, it's so crazy. Bob Plander.
Focused and family.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Tommy Dobeck.
Geez. Another jokester with the most solid, one of those unique and solid drummers that I've ever played with too.
Have you ever seen a drummer smile so much as they play drums as Bob or as
Tommy?
As Tommy. Yeah. He smiles like almost the whole time. Every time you look at him, he'll be. I've watched him turn to look at you and just smile and jam away.
Yeah.
David Young.
Theatrical.
Very theatrical.
Yes. Amazing player too.
How about Jennifer Lee?
My soul sister, a musical soul sister, just love.
That's amazing. Out of everybody I just mentioned, who's the funniest one? Who has the best sense of humor?
Oh, geez. Probably Rodney.
You're trapped on a desert island, and you get one of these guys on the desert island with you, and it can't be Wilson. So, who is it? Who are you trapped on a desert island with?
Oh boy. Jennifer.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Of all those bandmates that we just mentioned in here, who did you click with the most?
Jennifer might be also the funniest in the band besides Rodney. So.
Is she?
Oh yeah.
Wow.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Hopefully I'll get to do an interview with her and I can ask her for some jokes.
Yeah. Whatever.
With everybody that's in the band,
yeah.
who do you personally click with the most? And I know everybody, you know, has their own relationships, but who do you click with the most?
You know, again, it's like family, so it's, you know, but, you know, Rodney living by me, or, you know, the closest person living to me, living by me, and, you know, being someone who's into the band, not from the MSB Corps, you know, is probably, you know, we're probably the closest in terms of that, you know. But,
you know,
but that's, you know.
Trying to move into some real tough questions now, and you don't have to answer them if you don't want to. But I have to ask them for the Resonator fans, you know, just to see at this point. How did you originally find out about Michael's illness?
Michael sent an email to his, you know, I mean, obviously anybody's got their, you know, innermost, closest, you know, family and friends.
Yes.
But then you've also got, being a musician like myself and us, you know, you've got your band family and, you know, and your circle of friends, of which I've got many. And Michael obviously has so many. And he had sent an email. It was, I think it was September 11th.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Saying, you know, that, you know, he had about his illness. And
is there one particular band member that you reached out to about it, or did you guys just all come together as a band and just discuss everything?
It took a little bit, but I think Rodney, I talked to. I think first, probably.
Rodney does. He does seem like the the guy that overlooks the band a little bit, kind of like the father, if you will. Hate to say it like that because Rodney's gonna go, I'm not that old to be everybody's dad.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Michael was the patriarch of the family,
Yeah.
you know, there obviously, but yeah.
What when you heard about it, is it obviously you don't want your bandmate, your brother Michael, being sick or anything. How did you deal with it?
Well, just, you know, talking about it with, you know, the other bandmates and my close, you know, personal friends. It was something that he wanted to keep, you know, just amongst the family.
Yeah, yeah.
And because it was, you know, he could be, you know, very proud for, you know, being someone so public in the public eye, you know, like he was. You've got to still have this personal core, you know, that's private, you know, and
being a guy out in the public the way he was, though, he was a private guy. You know, when he went out, he would talk to people. If he seen you out somewhere, he would talk to you.
Oh yeah,
But
I mean, he was very
private.
He put himself out there a lot, you know. If you wanted to figure out where he was, you could, you know.
Yeah,
but so it was very tough to deal with because knowing what the outcome was going to eventually be, and at the same time, because of the pandemic, everybody waiting for the new album,
yeah.
and waiting to get back to shows, and because we left with the Akron Civic show
Yes.
being so on such a high note, and it was like the
fantastic.
best the band had played in, you know, who knows how long, just because we were rehearsed for it and we did all these different tunes, and you know, and I mean, pretty much for the last, I mean, I was just looking at a letter from like 2012. We said, well, here we go, you know, for another year. You know, he would send out at Christmas time,
Yeah.
and you know, and each show that we get is a blessing. I mean, at that point, you know, it's like every time we could do a show, it was a blessing. You know,
Yeah.
you were playing it like, you know, like who knows, it's not going to go on forever. We knew that for the last 8-10 years, basically. But just that was the most heartbreaking and emotional thing. One of the most that I've had to deal with was just knowing all the people that were going to be so affected by it.
Yeah.
And yeah, so
How did
it was
you
just
find
it was a you know, a burden, but you know, it was something that you do for family to you know, keep that amongst everyone.
How did you find out about his passing?
I woken up by my phone zinging, ringing. My phone was on actually that night. So I got, a text. I think from Rodney. Might have been.
You know, you guys are one of the most beloved bands in the country, honestly. And there is the personal end of it where things like this happen.
Mm-hmm.
The outpouring of support after his passing, kind of overwhelming for all you guys.
Oh yeah, and it helped get us through it really. Especially after, you know, 6 months of having to keep it, you know, close to the vest and not having it public, and like I say, that was probably the toughest part of it. And then when he was gone, like I say, I mean, it was still real tough, but seeing the outpouring of love from everyone, and it still has been, you know, it really helped get me through it.
It's amazing, you know, that people don't understand the closeness of that band and all you band members to the fans.
Mm-hmm.
You know, another real personal question. Michael sent each and every one of you bandmates. I'm going to say family. I'm not going to call you guys bandmates. You guys are family.
Yeah.
He sent all you guys personal letters. Would you care to share your letter with the fans?
Yeah, that's something, you know, personal from him. That's, you know.
When you got that letter, I know it had to be pretty tough on you, but most people don't get an opportunity to go through that experience. You know, people usually die quickly and stuff.
Well, I mean, we had the opportunity to, if we didn't see him in the last, you know, as he was going, I had the opportunity to write a farewell letter to him, you know, which I did. So, you know, that was tough, obviously. And then, getting that from him too, but it was in a way, you know, showing that he was kind of still with us.
Yeah, yeah.
Because I got it in the mail, 2 weeks
Yeah.
after he passed, but it's like, wow, there's his handwriting with my, on the letter, on the on the envelope.
He just refused to get up with 2020, huh? He just, the mailing and the emails and all that. That's just fantastic. It just shows his character.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We talked about the overwhelming
Yeah.
support of the
Right.
fans with you guys and everything that you guys are going through. The Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, when his daughters came out and all the band members
Oh, for
came
Michael
out
Stanley Day, yeah.
for Michael Stanley Day.
Yeah.
How crazy was that turnout on a work day?
Oh, yeah.
Cold outside, and everybody showed up,
Mm-hmm.
How did that make you guys feel just to see that kind of support?
Oh, it was very affirming for us, and it was good. This was just 3 weeks after he passed, and it was the first time that most of us were able to see each other, and because it's still in the middle of the pandemic, and being able to to grieve and to share that, so that was that was a good thing. We needed that.
The gentleman, and I so apologize, the gentleman that runs the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, I can't remember his name, that helped put all that together and his thing. Him too. We'd like to thank him for what he did to make all that happen at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Jim Henke and Kevin Kelly, actually.
Kevin Kelly, that's it. I couldn't think of his name. He's probably going to watch us and go, I'll remember that next time.
Now he's running for mayor, so
yeah, and he's probably going to win. It looks like.
And he was the one who also did the helped get the street here on renamed Michael Stanley Way. That was back when we had that tribute for him at the Beachland.
And moving
for Michael.
And now there's a permanent thing there at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame for a while. So hopefully.
But yeah, Kevin Kelly was the one who pushed through a lot of who did was helping officially from the city responsible for that. So he's a big Michael Stanley fan. So keep that in mind at the polls.
Yeah, please.
So full disclosure, I've got a Kevin Kelly for mayor sign on my front lawn.
The city of Cleveland doesn't realize how bad they need Kevin Kelly at this point.
But anyways,
and and before we get into some of your personal band stuff, can I beg you guys to put a tribute? The Resonators get back together for a tribute concert or something. How about in the backyard or something? We just get everybody. Is there any way I can beg you? Listen, if we can do that, can I invite you guys out?
Stay tuned.
I would like to.
Stay tuned.
Fans would like to see something like that. But
stay tuned.
Hey, if something like that happens, can I try out to be the guy to invite you guys on stage? Can I? Let me see if I can do this.
Just leave your number and we'll see.
What the heck, man? So let's move on to some more fun stuff if you don't mind.
Sure.
Let's talk about your tribute bands. You're like the king of tribute bands in the United States. You have
I would say that.
You have the Pink Floyd "Wish You Were Here" tribute band, which is huge. One of the best tribute bands in the world. You still pack the places. I don't remember the numbers at Lorraine, but it was their biggest show at Lorraine, wasn't it?
Yeah, we had over 10,000 there, close to 11,000.
And what people don't realize is that was also a paid show that people came and we paid to come see it, and it was phenomenal. So the tribute bands, "Wish You Were Here."
Right.
Is that out of all your tribute bands, is that your favorite band or?
Well, yeah, that's the big one. I mean, the other two that we do are just, for fun and, gigs here and there.
Why
the
Pink
Neil Young
Floyd?
and the Sugar Bags things.
Why Pink Floyd?
That evolved out of Harvest when I joined with Jim in 1987. They were already doing some Pink Floyd, and we found that people liked it. The singer, keyboardist at the time could sound, had got the vocals, sounding like that. And that evolved, and that's when we started doing a Pink Floyd review in end of 1987. So we were one of the first bands, in the world to tribute Pink Floyd. And then that evolved, and we did that up until 1993, and then started "Wish You Were Here" with the same core with me and the keyboardist and Jim in 1995. So that makes us the longest continually running Pink Floyd tribute in the world. Seeing that we started doing it in 87 and and just rebooted ourselves in 95, after doing it for 7 years before that. So and we're just starting to again, we've been mostly regional, but we're going to be expanding expanding our market borders with the.
That was actually my next question. If you guys plan on going maybe on the West Coast, because Pink Floyd's huge on the West Coast, and
no, but just expanding our reach outside of Ohio for sure.
Who's in Wish You Were Here? Who's your bandmates there?
No, I've got 10 bandmates.
Wow, and it's crazy.
It's a 10-piece band, and there's 6-piece, 7-piece crew. I got it's a big project. Yeah.
How's it looking for?
I can name names, but and they know who they are.
So you and Jim did, you guys do Harvest, Jim's band Harvest, and you do.
No, Neil Harvest is our Neil Young tribute.
The Neil Young.
Yeah, we decided to do a Neil Young tribute, and we used Harvest because that was our name before, and we did a lot of Neil, so we figure we own that name already in Cleveland, Northeast Ohio.
And you guys are fantastic. You guys, all the bars or venues that you play at, you do fantastic.
Yeah, it's a fun side project, as is the Sugar Magnolia, the Grateful Dead thing.
I was going to mention Sugar Magnolia. You played a couple of weeks ago at Shooters, and the place was packed.
Mm-hmm.
Packed. I mean, there's no other tribute bands. You look around, there's no other tribute bands that are packing the venues like you. What do you think the success of that is? Just being in the business that long and building a name and a reputation, how good you guys are?
All right. Well, you're talking.
For the
other, I mean, those bands are different than Wish. Wish is a whole different,
yes.
I mean, that's a different level than the local thing that we're doing with the other bands. But it's just a matter of knowing what the people want to hear and doing it correctly, and then doing.
Do you have any in mind?
I guess
any more startup tribute bands in your mind that you would like to do, or you're happy where you're at?
Yeah, I'm trying to, I spread myself kind of thin, and I'm just trying to, with. And it's tough juggling stuff, so it's nice to be able to be more focused, and that's
How many nights a week do you play out?
It varies, during the summer it's 5, it's been 5 nights a week. I mean, everything's changed now with the pandemic, so So let's just say since 2007 up until the pandemic, I averaged about 210 gigs a year.
Wow, so that's playing.
You figure out the math. It's like 3 to 5 nights a week, gigs a week.
Tell us your relationship with Colin DeSalt.
Colin, longtime musician that we've been friends with from Lakewood. Jim and I started doing a trio with him. I don't know how long ago that was. Maybe 10 years ago. And I've done a trio format with him for that kind of eased off a bit, over the last couple of years, but we still do playing with them Saturday. Yeah. You
guys gel so well on stage together.
Well, it's kind of like, you got the 3 band leader. It's fun. So we just go he sings a song, I sing a song, Jim sings a song, so it's kind of like combining our resources and our talent pool. So that's a fun gig. Colin's a lot of fun to play with. He's great at making up, lyrics and stuff on the spot. It becomes it's fun to try and make each other laugh, and
we're watching you guys. Mm-hmm. We do see that.
Yeah.
We do see you guys messing with each other and doing what you do. Before we move on to our next segment, which is looking at some of the memorabilia that you have, we're also looking for the coolest Michael Stanley memorabilia out there, Resonator memorabilia. But would you like to, you don't have to if you don't want to, but would you like to say anything to your Resonator family, meaning the fans? Would you like to say anything to the fans that have been here for you? And even when you're out and playing gigs, they all come up to you and hug you. And
well, it's just, again, music touches a lot of people, and it's brought together a lot of people, and it is, that's been one of the reasons why I do it and why I continue to do it, is connecting with other people through music. And that's part of the joy of music and playing it. I've made so many close friendships with, through Michael's, fans, as well as through, people, fans who wish we were here, and the other tributes, and playing with, Jim and I doing our duo. So, I just think it's, I hope we can continue to do that with, with everybody, and, don't give up on live music. It's an important part of our lives. Music is what touches the soul, and it's, for me, one of the well, it's my passion, obviously, a lot of people's passion, but it's just a force for positivity, and I hope we continue to do that continuing to rock until otherwise notified, as the man would say.
That's absolutely perfect. Eric, we appreciate you taking the time today. We're looking forward to looking at some of your Michael Stanley memorabilia that you have, and anything I can do to get a little tribute reunion together, we'll do. The fans will do. But you guys see that you're very loved, you're very missed. And it's only been a short time, but when you've been going as good as you guys have been going, it really is. It does touch you, and fans and you guys as bandmates, you feel that emptiness, from not seeing you guys on stage. And you mentioned the last Akron show, to me, was a fantastic show. All you guys were dancing on stage. Mm-hmm. Everybody was having a great time. Micah was laughing. It was like one of the best shows that you've seen in a while, and pandemic hits and shuts it all down. So I really want to, on behalf of all the fans and everybody out there, we really appreciate you taking the time today to do this. I know it's been tough on you guys, and let's rock on, man. Let's get the show on the road. Let's get some kind of tribute going, or let's do something. But I want to thank you very much on behalf of all of us.
You're very welcome.
We'll be back in a few to show you some of the cool stuff Eric has. Thank you.